Welcome back to Living Local, and thank you for watching the show today. Whether it's a pool day or a backyard barbecue, warm weather means that folks are spending much more time outside. But with those hot temps comes a greater risk for heat-related health problems. And so today we're checking in with a health expert to better understand how you can stay safe in the sun. And so joining us today via Zoom is QC native Dr. Jennifer Caudle, a practicing family physician and also an on-air health expert. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, it's so great to see you, Michaela. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, of course. So how can heat actually impact people, both young and old, as they are spending some more time outside?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, heat can be one of the most dangerous things that we encounter. Heat-related illnesses can do anything from causing heat rash or heat exhaustion to even heat stroke, which is a medical emergency. Sometimes people just have mild symptoms like the rash, or they feel tired or excessive sweating. But sometimes even with situations like heat stroke, people actually get confused. They get, disoriented, things like that. And again, that's a medical emergency. 911 needs to be called. So the most important thing is to understand that heat can actually be very serious.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And are there some concerns that maybe impact younger folks versus older folks that people should kind of be on the lookout for?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's a really great question because there are some people that are at higher risk for heat-related illness. That is the little ones, right? The little babies and the little ones. Also, older individuals as well. Also, people who are on certain medications may be at certain risk, and some people with certain medical conditions as well. So, it's important to understand that not everyone's created equally, and that yes, there are some people that are higher risk. And sort of knowing your risk, I think, is important as we are in the summer as well.
Yes, especially as people are spending just so much more time outside. Whether it is having fun or not, it's still important just to keep all of that in mind as well.
Yes.
Yes. So what are some of the signs that people should look for to know whether or not it's time for them to maybe take a break from being outside?
Yeah, so, first of all, I think it begins with prevention. We want to certainly avoid doing activities at the hottest time of day, oftentimes at sort of mid-afternoon, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., maybe a little later, depending on where you live. But try to avoid those hot times. Make sure that you're dressing appropriately, light-colored, lightweight clothing, that you're wearing a hat, you're wearing your sunscreen, you're staying hydrated, and that you're staying in the shade as much as you can when you are outside. That prevention, I think, is going to be very, very important. But in terms of knowing when you need to stop and cut back, is I would say, look, listen to your body. Your body will tell you when you've had enough or you're just not feeling right. And certainly anyone who's not feeling right should seek medical care. Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that info too. Now you touched on sunscreen, and I know some people are better at putting it on than others, but how often should people be applying this? And maybe how would you encourage somebody who doesn't wear it even though they probably should?
Yeah, there are a lot of people who don't wear sunscreen. I actually wear sunscreen every day, to be honest with you. I wear sunscreen on my face every day and then on my body as well. And I think it's important to note that people of all skin colors should be wearing sunscreen. I do think there is a bit of a myth out there that if you have darker skin, you don't need sunscreen, and that is a myth. We all should be wearing sunscreen. Not only does it protect against skin cancer, but it also prevents signs of aging, which is a bonus here. But Michaela, you ask about how often we should be using sunscreen. It's a good question because not many of us are using it properly. We need to be using at least 1 ounce of sunscreen. That's about the amount of sunscreen that fills a shot glass, which is probably more than most people are using to cover their body. And we want to make sure that we're reapplying every 2 hours or after swimming or sweating. That's super important. So those are some guidelines. And of course, we can talk about which type of sunscreen to get, but making sure that we're wearing that sunscreen is very important.
Yeah, I do not use enough sunscreen. I definitely do not. But thank you for sharing that, because now I will try to keep that in mind too. So about that much, that's what we should be going for.
Yeah, it's more than a lot of people think. It's a shot glass. And again, that's for your whole body. We want to make sure that we don't forget like the tops of our nose, the scalp for those people who may not have as much protection on their head, the nose, the lips. Actually wearing SPF on our lips is very important. Those are some places that tend to be forgotten. So yeah, super important.
Yep, keeping all of those in mind. Now, I know you touched on a couple of the things that people can do to protect themselves, whether it be sunscreen or staying out of the sun at the very hot times of the day. Is there anything else that people can keep in mind as they are spending some more time outside?
Yeah, just a couple of notes, just to swing back to the sunscreen piece. I think it's important to make sure that we're buying the right sunscreen. There are a lot of options out there, over the counter that you can get at your local drugstore. You want to make sure that you're using at least an SPF of 30. You also want to make sure that your sunscreen is water resistant, excuse me. And then the third thing we want to make sure is that it's broad spectrum, or that it covers UVA or UVB rays. So those are just a couple of tips about sunscreen that people should keep in mind. But I would also say, again, staying hydrated is definitely key. And, the family doctor in me also wants to remind people that, there are some people who cannot drink as much water as others. So on particularly hot days, you want to make sure you're consulting your doctor about how much water you can drink and things like that. Oh, and this is, I'm like, the last thing I want to mention is air conditioning is our biggest friend. Remember,
absolutely.
on these hot days, I mentioned how we can stay safe in the heat, but really, prevention starts with staying inside if you can. Staying in the air conditioning is probably one of the most important protective measures that we have. So let's not forget that, and let's utilize that first.
Okay, fantastic. Really great advice here. Dr. Jen, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
And now you can get connected with Dr. Jen over at drjencaudle.com, and we'll also have those details posted over on our website at ourquadcities.com.